Hello there, Jeremiah. I always think it's exciting to watch, the move-in day for, schools. And of course, Suffolk University is the one I always see because they're right on the Freedom Trail there. I hope I'm not violating anybody's privacy, but it's kind of fun I just get the feels because it takes me back to my own move-in days, back in the day and stuff. There we are, a little too close for comfort there. I'm at the age where a lot of my friends who I grew up with are now moving their kids into college. Or I don't have any spouses or kids, nor do I particularly want any and stuff. What is the plural of spouse? It's spice, I guess. I have no spice and no children and stuff. I'd rather just be kind of the fun, irresponsible uncle for as long as I can. I'm always amazed at how many college students come on my tour, sometimes in altered states of consciousness. Like I noticed particularly around the whole Hemp Fest or Freedom Rally thing or whatever they call it these days, how many baked college students go on my tour, or some of them I suspect are on shrooms and stuff. I've never really thought of my tour as a psychedelic experience, to be honest, but I imagine if you're a bit baked, it might be kind of amusing to see a guy called Poop, telling you weird stories about history in a silly costume. So I get it. Although I do have a friend, if you're into that kind of thing, I do have a friend, Jimbo Williamson, who does a great weed and cannoli tour. Google Jimbo Williamson weed and cannoli tour. If you like cannolis and weed, then he's definitely up your alley. Probably a better stoner experience than my tour, I suspect, but who knows, each to their own. I have a soft spot in my heart for Suffolk University because they're the college that I'm exposed to the most, because they're all, their dorms are all throughout the Freedom Trails. I meet so many college students from Suffolk University. And Suffolk, I've always had a number of friends who went to Suffolk. Actually, one of my favorite brother-in-law was on the Suffolk University hockey team. Go Rams. I'm a big Rams fan. Try to get to a few of the games every year. And I actually introduced him to my sister because he was in his senior year at Suffolk, and he went on one of my tours, and she just happened to be on the tour, and then they ended up going out, and little did I dream that a few years later they'd be married and they'd have children and stuff. So I'm kind of responsible for the existence of their children in a weird, vicarious kind of way. And actually that's happened a lot. I've met a number of people who say they've met their spouse, on my tour, or they've, gotten married after going on my tour. And so I think the only thing I've never heard from somebody is, that their child was conceived on my tour, although maybe on one of those pub crawls, who knows. Some of those people did get a bit randy and stuff. It was a little bit wild, so that's part of why I stopped doing it a little bit. I'm a little bit of a prig myself. But I always love the excitement of move-in day because you can see, all the kids there with their dreams and hopes and stuff. And, a lot of people they're so naive, just wait till the world gets them, they'll see. And it's like, I hope they never do see. I hope that these students hold on to their dreams throughout their life. I always held on to mine, even broken though they may be. I kind of go through this world like a Don Quixote, I suppose, or maybe a Sancho Panza or something. But it always reminds me, watching people move in, of my own move-in day to college. My grandparents dropped me off at Emerson in September of 1994, and I'm so excited to be left alone in what I considered the big city. I guess Boston isn't all that big, but to me, coming from a suburb in central Massachusetts, I was amazed I could cross the street by myself. I'm like, would I find my way back or something? And Emerson College was such great fun. I even started a little band, actually. Originally we were called Psychedelicatessen, but then I found out that name was used, so we changed our name to Spornak, and we named it after Dorothy Spornak, the character that B. Arthur played on The Golden Girls, because that TV show has always been a huge influence on, I think, everything I do, really. And we were a dreadful band, to be honest. I sang and played bass, but I couldn't really sing and play bass at the same time too well, so that was a problem. And I also played theremin, because I owned a theremin, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen a theremin. It's like one of the little boxes with the antennas, and you move your hands around it to adjust the pitch and the volume. But I did have a theremin, although again I couldn't really play it. And usually when we'd play sets, people would walk out or just talk over us. And I had a friend who used to work for the old indie newspaper in Boston, the Boston Phoenix, which I really miss. It was a great newspaper, and they had a Best Band award for Best Band in Boston. And he's like, it's too bad we didn't have a Worst Band award, because Spornak definitely would have been the winner of that. When I started Emerson, of course, grunge was the big thing, and Kurt Cobain had just died months earlier, but Alice in Chains and Stone Temple Pilots were all very, very big bands. Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. It's funny because of Pearl Jam, for a while in the '90s, so many singers all tried to sing like Eddie Vedder. Remember in the '90s, everybody was like, I mean, I even had a roommate who would try to sing like Eddie Vedder, and he actually would write songs. But he wanted them to be like grunge style, but he didn't quite know how to pull it off. And he'd do this weird little vocal inflection in his songs that was kind of reminiscent of Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly would do like the Peggy say, ooh, or I can't even do it. Well, he'd throw that into a grunge song, which had no business. And plus, he would write the most mundane topics for a grunge song. I mean, he wrote a song about his grandma. And it was a real earworm, too, because, over 30 years later, I still can't get it out of my head. Like, it'd be like, oh, grandma, you sweet little lady, too nice for your own kind. And all his songs have that little kind. Like, he did one called, that's College Life, and there's just no denying it. It went, that's college life, and there's just no denying it. And he also did one called Boy Scout Man, and it went, Boy Scout man, why did you hurt my friend? But these songs still are stuck in my mind to this very day. Actually, it's kind of funny. I've actually slept over at Suffolk dorm several times, which is weird because I'm way out of college and I never went to Suffolk. But actually, about 3 years ago, it was late at night and I missed the last train home. And, I could have taken an Uber home, I suppose, but that would have been expensive. I had a very early tour the next day, and really, I thought, what's even the point of going home? I mean, I'll be home for a couple hours, and I happened to run into my cousin who was going to Suffolk at the time. He's quite a bit younger than I am, and some of his friends, and he's like, dude, why don't you just crash in our dorm room for the night, and then you'll be right on the Freedom Trail to do your tour. And I was like, oh, well, thank you, okay. And I hadn't been in a college dorm room in years, but they still look pretty much as they did in my day. And actually, they very nicely allowed me to sleep on this futon on the floor. Although, I was a little bit annoyed because there was Doritos all over it and stuff, and it smelled not only like Doritos. I told them it smells like sex and spilled bong water, and they're like, yeah, probably, and stuff. I'm like, great. So I slept on it, and the guys were getting ready for bed, and two of them were in a bunk bed, and one of them's like, I heard you do ghost tours. Can you tell us some scary ghost stories as we're going to sleep? And I'm like, well, I'm not really on the clock right now, so I'd rather just go to sleep. And he's like, oh, come on, dude. He's like, we're letting you crash in our crib tonight. We want some ghost stories. You owe us. So I told them some of the ghost stories I tell my ghost tour, and also some kind of weird personal stories, which I guess I'll have to share with you when spooky season comes, and you can be the judge if they're true or if it was just a figment of my imagination. But it seems like even when I'm not working, I still end up doing tours. And I went to a barbecue at a friend's house in Rehoboth, Massachusetts a few years ago, and somehow everybody started to get me to tell ghost stories, and they're like, isn't there this abandoned factory in the woods that's haunted near here? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh, take us there and tell us the story. So even when I'm not doing tours, I'm always a tour guide, apparently. I'll be in plain clothes and people come up to me asking me for directions all the time and be like, are you a tour guide? I'm like, how did you know? And they say, you just give off a tour guide-y vibe. But anyway, so I told these boys in the Suffolk College dorm, some ghost stories, and I must have done a good job, because at one point the kid in the top bunk jumped out of the bunk and he's like, dude, what the fuck? And he turned the lights on. He was freaked out by the story I'd told, and it was a really creepy, eerie story, actually. Also, I've gotten to know a number of people on the Suffolk College hockey team over the years. A number of the kids on the hockey team have gone on my tour, and about 10 years ago there's a bunch of them who went on my tour and actually became they're good friends. I'm still in touch with some of them today. I mean, they're all adults with careers and stuff, but they used to have this, some of the hockey players, usually sophomore year, would move off campus into this apartment in the North End where they would just basically party all the time. And I remember getting invited to one of the parties. I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't been to a college party in a while and stuff, and that was pretty interesting. Again, I managed to miss my train, and so one of the guys from the hockey team's like, well, you can sleep in my room on the floor. And I'm like, okay. What I didn't know was that as the night progressed, he was going to bring a girl into the room, and they were going to copulate with me on the floor there while they're on the bed, and I could hear everything. And the worst part was the girl was very friendly and apparently had been on my tour in middle school and insisted on talking to me about like history and tour guiding while she's, riding him like a bronco. And I was game to chat to a degree, but finally I told him, I was averting my eyes, of course. I said, shouldn't you be focusing on the task at hand? I mean, really? I mean, people have no shame these days. I learned that when I was staying in hostels in Europe. My God, people would be doing it right next to you. Goodness. And speaking of being friendly with college hockey teams, I remember another school, another college in the Boston area, and I'm not going to reveal their name. Some of their hockey players went on my tour and had a good time. And basically, at the end of the tour, they said to me, they said, we're going to Fenway Park to see the Sox. Do you want to join us, Poop? And they're like, we have an extra ticket. One of our friends can't come. I was like, oh, sure, a free Red Sox game. They were cool. They bought me drinks, and they bought me hot dogs and stuff and popcorn. And afterwards, they're like, hey, we're going to a party at our friend's place in the Fens. Do you want to go with us? And I was like, I haven't been to a college party in a while, so, probably since the 90s. So I'm like, oh, sure, why not? And I go, and it was quite the wild party, I must say. I behaved myself, but I saw some stuff for sure. And at one point, the party's host came over to me. He's like, hey, Poop. He's like, do you like Coke? And I'm like, I love sodas of all varieties, actually. I mean, Mountain Dew is my personal preference, but yeah, if you've got Coke, I will take that. And he's like, no, I don't mean the soda. And I was like, oh, you're talking about booger sugar, aren't you? And I was like, no, I think I'll pass on that. But some of the hockey players went into the kitchen to partake, and I stayed out in the living room with those who were not partaking because it's not really my scene. And then the hockey guys came out after doing bumps or lines or whatever the heck they did, and one of them was chatting with me, and he had like a mustache, and I noticed as he was talking to me that there was actually cocaine in his mustache. And I finally had to tell him, can you go and wash out your mustache, because I can't really have a serious conversation with you while you've got blow in your mustache. Sorry about that.